Hi, and welcome back to the Always Right podcast. I'm your host, Carissa DeLay, and this is my co-host, Jamie Vendera. I
Jamie
didn't
Vendera.
even let him say his name this time.
I was prepared to actually do it this time, but then I was like, Jamie Vendera? Okay, it's me.
But we have a special guest. I love
Yes.
special guest days. And today we have a songwriter. We have a musician, Miss Dani Black.
Yeah, and I'm very happy to have her. I'll let you talk in a minute, Dani, because it's what I do. Because Dani's one of my students and great songwriter, and I wanted to, have somebody on when we started the songwriting part that I'd been working with, and I knew it was just writing song after song after song after song.
Mhm.
And Dani's the one I thought of. So, and Chris actually thought of you too. So, because I told the story. Tell us a little bit about yourself, Dani, and I'll drink some of my water.
Quietly.
Yeah, hi, I'm Dani. And I'm a singer-songwriter. That's pretty much it. I write a lot of music, I play a lot of music, sing a lot of songs, and hopefully one day I'll be able to do a full-time career with it. And yeah.
She's being pretty humble.
Yeah, so this is the thing that kind of got me to where I was like, hey, Jamie, you need to ask Dani if she wants to come on, because he told me this little story where he was like, oh, you can do like 100 songs in a year or something like that. And you're like, I could do 100 songs in 100 days. So tell us about that. Tell us about this. And I'm like, okay, that's the one we need because she's a writer.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be books. You are a writer of music.
And you tell the story because you didn't get to 100 days. It didn't happen in 100 days for 100 songs.
No, yeah. So basically, I had a vocal injury, and so I started seeing Jamie to heal my vocal injury. And when he gave me the green light to continue writing songs, it had been like 3 months since I'd written a song, which was really, really like not fun because I love writing songs. And so when I started writing songs again, I was writing, 2-3 songs a day. I was writing super quickly. And my goal at the beginning of the year was 100 songs for 2023. And by like January, like 10th, I'd written 15 songs. And I was like, well, I'm going to achieve this goal a lot faster than I thought. And so I was telling Jamie about this, and he goes, well, what if he wrote 100 songs in 100 days? And then I had to one-up him, of course, and was like, what if I wrote 100 songs in 90 days? And then it actually turned out to be 86 days when I wrote song 100. But yeah, at the beginning of the year, I wrote 100 songs, and I've written more songs than that since January, or I guess it was March by then. But yeah.
Yeah, every lesson, I got a new song, got a new song.
And you're like, oh my gosh.
Yeah. Yeah, the question at the start of the lesson was always like, how many songs this week?
Yeah, and the thing I like about you, though, is, you're a big Taylor Swift fan, so you're more of a pop artist, but when we first started working together, it was more eclectic. I felt like it was Joni Mitchell, campfire-y stuff, and we got in contact through Jason Davis Management. I work with a lot of his clients, and I know that you're signed with them, and you came to me, and at first I was like, I'm listening. I'm like, I don't know. You just have more of a poppy vibe. You like really hooky melodies. Like your choruses pull me in. And funny enough, you were down in Nashville doing the songwriting session with some other artists, and what came back was it wasn't Joni Mitchell. It was more pop. Ariana Grande. All the local. I can't even talk. The latest pop artists that are out there. It had more of that vibe, and then I remember saying that to you, like, you need to go this direction. You're like, okay. And then you're spitting out songs left and right.
Oh, yeah.
So,
I went to Nashville for a couple of nights, like you mentioned, and all the songs, we did 6 songs in 3 days, and like every single one was like pop and pop and pop, and I was like, wow, this is really cool. This is really fun, and it completely shifted how I write my music, and now I'm definitely more pop centric with a little folk for fun sometimes, but
yeah, but do you remember we had the conversation, if you write with a acoustic guitar in your hand, a lot of times it was coming out like that. But if you go to your piano, I was like, oh, it's more like Adele type ballady stuff. So if you told me I wish it was more like this, I said, well, go put down your guitar and go to your piano. Well, let's just play the chords and sing it. And it would change your vibe. You're like, okay, I got it. But we want to know about your songwriting process.
Yes. Well, first of all, like, just how long have you been singing in general? Like, just when did you start singing?
Well, I was a really loud kid, so always. Um, I started vocal lessons when I was 13 through my community musical theater. And then I started taking it more seriously, performing at gigs and pubs when I was 15, and now I'm 20, so however long that is, but 5 years. But yeah,
So
that's how long I've been
did you
singing.
start writing your own music then, or when did you start writing your own music?
Well, okay, so my dad had an iPad 1. Like, it didn't even have a camera. It was like vintage.
Yeah, I
And
remember.
and it had GarageBand on it. And so when from ages 8 and up, I was on my dad's iPad 1 writing songs about boyfriends and breakups and hitting the chords. And they're 30 seconds long, and nonsensical. But when I was 11, I sat down and I wrote
She
my
had a
first
sultry
full-length
childhood,
song.
by the way. So she was writing about all these boyfriends she had as 8, 9 years old.
My first boyfriend was in kindergarten, Jamie, and then I think in first grade I had 2 and couldn't decide between Patrick and Henry.
As a child, yuck.
The drama.
Whatever.
No, yeah, the 11 is when I started properly writing full length, verse, chorus, verse, chorus, bridge, chorus, and from there.
Are they kind of, when you're writing them? Would you were they very poetry like at first, and you just create these chorus lines? How does that work?
No, I am actually really bad at writing poetry. I can't do it for some reason, which is funny because I'm a songwriter. When I'm writing songs, it's like the lyrics and the melody, they all come at once. So I'll sit down. At the time when I was 11-year-old me, it was the piano. I didn't know how to play guitar, and I would just play the chords that I knew from my music theory, and the melodies just kind of came to me along with the lyrics, and wrote songs about how my brother was super mean. He wasn't. I was dramatic, but you're 11, so
I love that.
Yeah.
I'm actually glad that you said you can't do poetry, because I think those who rhyme all the time is a crime, and you see that with a lot of. I set that up. I practiced it all day.
There's an eye roll for you.
So, but think about it. If you have friends that write, like I'm a songwriter, and they get in that rhyme scheme, or one I'll see is a new songwriter will have a rhythm pattern. Like the song "Kiss Me" by Sixpence None the Richer. That dun 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 dun. It's that same pattern, 4 chords, and I'll see young songwriters, and they will get so here's a new song, and it's the same 4 chords in a different key in the same pattern, and I'll have a dozen songs like that. Was that how it was for you in the beginning, and you developed from there, or what?
I mean, songwriting is kind of one of those things. It's like a learned skill, and so I've always kind of written what I hear and make it my own. Because I mean, if it's not broke, don't fix it. But yeah, I would write a lot of songs. I mean, sometimes I'd write a song and I'd be like, "That's this song by Taylor Swift." That's plagiarism, and then I would scrap it and not use it and not do anything with it. But way back when I was just starting out, it was definitely I knew 4 chords on the piano. I'd play them. I'd switch up the order. But they were all sounding very similar. And then just as I get older, I'd hear there was a song that I wanted to learn. And so then I learned new chords and how to use different chords in different ways, and how different melodies interacted with the chords, and how the lyrics kind of came into play. And so for me, it was definitely what I would hear, and I'd take from that, and how do I make that my own. And that's kind of how I learned to build out my toolkit as a songwriter.
That's cool. But,
go ahead, Carissa. Go ahead.
Well, so I was, when she was talking about mixing, moving, which I'm not a musician. I mean, I played the trumpet, clarinet, and baritone, and violin, but I'm not a musician. I played music that was already created, and I just learned to play the instruments. So I was
That's
more.
still being a musician. That's still
But
a
I wasn't.
musician.
I can't do the jazz riff thing where it's like, oh, I just riff off and be like, what I'm like. No, I have. I'm a very like, give me the structure to follow, and I can do that. I can memorize the music just like that. But when it comes to what you're talking about, the chords and like the same chords and just rearranging and stuff like that, Ed Sheeran recently just proved that in court when they were trying to sue him for kind of like stealing that. Like so many musicians, you don't even realize it's the same chord, just kind of rearranged or a different key or whatever, however it works. And there are actual comedians that they were doing like a piano thing and they were doing a joke thing and they would change the music up and they would do the same riff or whatever. They started with like Nirvana Teen Spirit, but they would show you how that actually exists in other songs. So it's very common for that because I mean, again, it's very hard to come up with a new chord.
Well, I mean, modern music on the radio is pretty formulaic, and I say this a lot in lessons. And I don't mean no disrespect, but you have to dumb it down. And I know I've said this to you, Dani. Like if you're really writing prolifically, and she's got like C add 9 and going to sus chords and doing this big change around, I'm like, that's great. I like music that's really intricate, but that won't make it on the radio. They need a formulaic approach, and most songs are like that. Doesn't mean they're dumbed down, but it's for the masses, so you get that hook stuck in your head. And hopefully it has made a difference with you. I mean, because you and I went over a lot of your songs together, and the thing about Dani, she is a true musician. She's like, you mold on the spot. We may change lyrics or a melody or something, and you're up to try anything. So, but we got to know, when you were doing the 100 songs in 86 days, and you said it comes to you together, it's not like that for me. I either write piano or my guitar player will play something, and I don't write the lyrics anymore, and I don't rhyme. Most of the time, I'm like you, I'm very conversational, but they unfold for me. They pop in my head. So you just told us I write the music and the lyrics at the same time. So during that 86 days, did you wake up and think, okay, it's time to write a song? What should I write about? Do you have a topic? Does something come into your head? How does it all come together for you?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's kind of like when I need to write a song, I've given myself a deadline. I kind of have to be like, dance, monkey, dance, like, with my songwriting, which it's not always how music works. But for me, I have a notes app on my iPhone, and
I use mine
I'm a big fan.
Yes.
I'm a big fan of the Notes app. And so every time I get an idea, I have a section called ideas and I have a section called song titles. And song titles is actually, it was a process that Jason Davis got me to do. And when I started doing that, I was like, heck yeah, this is like the coolest thing ever. I'm going to keep doing that. And now I have like hundreds of song titles that when I'm struggling for inspiration, I'll just look at them and be like, that's a cool title. Let's start there. Or I go into my ideas notes and, that's even more just idea after idea. And then I've categorized them because I'm a nerd. And so I'll be like, all right, I want to write a song about heartbreak. Let's see, like, is there like a cool seed in here? And so I'll typically start by searching for like a seed. And once I have that, I'll try and craft a chorus around it. If I'm really struggling, then I'll start from like the beginning, and all my songs are very story narrative oriented. And so I'll be like, once upon a time, but make it sound cool and in a song form. And then I go from there, and typically the song kind of just comes out. And if it doesn't, then I scrap it and start a new one.
Do you ever get writer's block, or maybe
maybe you don't
believe it? Maybe you don't believe in writer's block. Also, it's just you're inspired or you're
yes, Jamie, you literally were tapping into me because I was like, when she's done, I'm so asking. So do you believe you get writer's block?
Yeah, but what it wasn't psychic connection. It was like, how can I one up Jamie? And I was thinking, how can I one up Carissa? We had a podcast a while back, and I said, listen, Dani, when I tell you this, I will not drop you as a student if you agree with her. But I think that writer's block, to me, I say it doesn't exist. You're either inspired or you're bored. And she said it absolutely exists. So we had a big podcast.
We had an episode on the podcast where we debated writer's block. And I'm team, obviously, Carissa that believes in writer's block, and Jamie and his obnoxious water bottle believe that it doesn't exist. So the question goes to you: where do you stand? Are you a believer that writer's block exists? And when I say that, it means you have the information, that you have the creativity. It's just something keeping you from getting it into format, like either typing or writing.
And remember, I'm not dropping you as a student if you don't agree with me.
Don't be intimidated by him.
She's not. She knows I'm a dork. So how does it happen for you? Do you ever have writer's block?
In between, whereas like I'll get writer's block for like a day or two, and then like I remember during COVID, the initial lockdown, I had writer's block for like several days, and I was really frustrated, and I was bored because I had nothing to do. She was bored. Lockdown.
She said she had writer's block.
Yeah, she's just trying to keep it even, so we don't kill each other.
I'm in between. But then like once I get like a new idea, then the flow kind of comes back. But when I get into those situations of not being able to write, it's typically like my brain is super busy. And so if I'm able to like relax my brain and kind of like empty it out, then the ideas will start coming, the melodies will start coming. But yeah, I'm in between. It's like writer's block is definitely like, I understand how people will go for months and months without writing, but I mean, it's just not been my experience.
It sounds like she believes in writer's block.
It sounds like she was just bored for a few days, but we'll leave it at that.
Well, I don't know.
I do gotta know though. She said something very important. This will be good for songwriters. You said if you feel like you have writer's block, that your brain is very busy and you have to empty it out. So what do you mean by that? Was it when you were in school or college or your work, or you had something else to do, or you're working on what was it that was busying your brain that you had to empty out?
Yeah, I mean, I see my brain as like a whole bunch of like colors and splotches. And so when my brain kind of like all mushes together and it's not articulate exactly what I'm feeling, what I'm thinking, what's going on, and like like if you're like staring at a screen for hours on end, you kind of get that headache, and it's really heavy. It's kind of like that, but like all the time. And so you can't really articulate why your brain's feeling this way, like why you can't really think of anything, why no ideas are coming. And so that's kind of what I mean by having like a busy brain, where it's like it's so busy that it's inarticulate and you can't focus on anything. And
we call them squirrels in Jamie's brain.
Yeah, but that's all the time. That's all the time. But to help other songwriters that are listening, if that's the case with you, is it a matter of you just have to wait it out and let it empty on its own, or do you like, hey, I'm going to hop into Netflix and binge watch something for a day, or I'm going to meditate out in the forest,
or listen to music? Because there's something. Yeah. What do you do to kind of reposition the tabs in your brain?
I typically, like, if it's in correlation with writer's block or not writer's block. Again, neutral.
I'll still see you next Wednesday.
Them Canadians are always trying to be neutral.
Don't make me spit on my.
They're so nice they can't even decide which side they're on for writer's block. I'm kidding.
So how do you empty it?
I listen to music most of the time. I'll try and find like an album. Like, I'm a big album person, and so I'll listen to an album that's on my to listen list and get ideas from there and be like, that's a really cool idea. And or TV stories, poetry, finding something that can inspire you and invoke that creativity again.
And what you just said, you're an album person. That is such a lost art form. I mean, luckily, like the actual albums you put on a record player are coming back. So my brother lives in Germany, and he's like that. He will buy albums and he listens to the whole thing. What happened to that? I grew up like you go to Spotify or you buy a single on iTunes, and it's no enjoying the experience of the entire album to get that flow, because the artist changes from album to album, and you really need to have that full. For me, I like to have that full experience.
I'm really glad that there's the album stuff is coming back. Like we have, the vinyl record players here at our house, and our kids, listen to my husband, like buying the collector's editions of things and stuff like that. And of course, a lot of the artists coming out with these things, it's great.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I'm a huge
So,
vinyl person. Yeah.
the thing about Dani, it's funny. Working with Jason Davis Management. Shout out to you, Jason. We both love you. You're freaking awesome. But his team has you, like, because you're growing your following, a lot of social media, TikTok, Threads, Instagram, X, all of those, Facebook. And I had pushed you when you're writing these. I said, hey, you need, and I actually talked to Jason about this. I said, what is it with copyright law today, so that I know Dani's safe, because I really think it would be so cool to you do a whole series of 100 videos, one per day, and you do a verse and chorus of each of these songs. And we will, like, after this is up, we'll tag you so people can find you and listen to all of these songs. But you started it, and you were about halfway through, and then his video media team comes along to start working with you. And I was so stressed because I was really afraid they were going to be like, you need to stop that because we're developing you as an artist, and we want to work with the songs in Nashville. Luckily, he didn't say that, because I believe he said to you, you need to finish this.
That's awesome.
Yes, and you did. So check it out, DaniBlackMusic.com. Do you have a dot in there? I can't remember. Dani.
Yeah, DaniBlack.music.
Yeah, on Instagram. But check it out, because I would like for people, if you have the time, to go through, because I want to ask you, those 100 songs, are they pretty much in the ballpark? I mean, I know the answer, but or were they changing? Were they evolving? Were you switching styles?
Absolutely. Yes.
All of the above.
All of the above.
So how? I mean, did it did this improve your songwriting? Were you in a Taylor vibe one day, and then who's the girl put out Vampire? Olivia Rodrigo. Were you in that vibe the next day, and it affected which direction you went? Because you were like popping. You were just going, going, going.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny looking back on the challenge, and honestly, any kind of part of my life where I was writing music, I can tell what I was going through based on the songs I was writing. And I don't write typically from personal experience, but I can tell through like the vibes and kind of the topics exactly where my brain was at. And with this 100 songs in 90 days challenge specifically, I can tell which artists I was hyper fixating on at which points. And at the beginning, it was very much like Noah Khan, Stick Season, Zach Bryan. And I can tell when that shifted over to Jake and his, This Is What Blank Feels Like project. And, when I was listening, like re-listening to Midnights again. And you can definitely tell where my brain was at. But it definitely like switched out, depending, like, song 56 could have been this, Olivia Rodrigo-esque ballad. And then song 58 could have been, a country song. But as I was nearing the end of the challenge, I was finding it was much easier to write songs. And part of that was me going, I just want to get it over with. Like, I was like, stop thinking about it. But it definitely forced me to always be coming up with ideas and then
always
learning
right.
how to always writing. Always right. I see what you did there.
Well, you say that. I'm kind of wondering if you were getting towards the end, like, I got to hurry up and get this over with. Do you feel like the songwriting suffered because you were like, I just want to get it over with? But I mean, do you look at any of those songs and be like, 36 is not, or, like, or 77 through 100 are not my favorite. It's not my best work. And I can tell because I was rushing it. Or no, you have a system. You've been doing this for so long. It still flowed.
No, I think songwriting is kind of like a wave. Whereas, like, if the peak of the wave is the best, pardon me, the best song ever, it's still going to go down and up. And so it takes like 10 songs, 100 songs, 500 songs to write one really good song. And, if you write song 50 and it's the best song you've ever written, song 51, you could do the exact same thing and it could be the worst thing ever. And you want to like bury it in a dungeon and never look at it again. And so I think songwriting is very much like that, where it has this ebb and flow and you can't really control that.
I know signed artists who literally write 100 songs to find 10 for the album, and that's the process.
Well,
And
that's kind of like, well, you know, Dani Black is a Taylor Swift fan. She understands that there's vault songs that never came out, and now they're coming out. These are songs that never made them onto the original album. So
yeah, I'm a Prince fan, so totally understand. I mean, there's thousands of songs that are just sitting there that we will probably never hear, and that he didn't want. He even put out this album, Chaos and Disorder, to get out to meet his record deal at the time, and he picked like 10 of the songs that he just did not like. He's just like, okay, you want an album? Let me go in here. Don't like that one, that one, that one. There you go. And there's an album, and it was actually a good album. I liked the album.
yeah, but you know, Dani, do you feel like you're your own worst critic though? Because sometimes I feel like I'm not. Yeah, we look at our kids. Like I look at my kids, I'm like, oh, they're doing great, and then I talk to my kids like, oh, I did terrible. I'm like, I didn't see the terrible. But we're sometimes our own worst critic. Like I'm like that with writing books. I'm like, hey, if you're reading my book, don't look over some of the typos. Like, and they're like, I didn't even see any typos. I like wasn't even paying attention. I was just in the flow. Are you that way with your music?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, I spend the most time with myself, and so like I can see all of the things that like no one else, like everyone else would just like glance over, and that's like with anyone and anything. But definitely it's like, oh, like I didn't like that or that or that or that could be stronger. But I've gotten good at not pointing it out all the time.
She's the same way in lessons, though. I don't like the way this verse is going. It's wonky. And we sing through it, and if we have to correct something, it's always minute. It's nothing major. So, you are a great singer, and a great songwriter.
I know we've mentioned a couple artists, but truly, who are some of the artists? I mean, you missed some of the ones that when you were doing the 100 songs in 87 days. Aside from like, you know, you mentioned Taylor Swift and Olivia Rodrigo and like some of the other stuff. Who are some of the other artists that you kind of like to listen to just for leisure?
I gotta interrupt here. I'm sure first up was Megadeth. Because you were writing during the time and that you come to a Megadeth concert. So, okay.
Yeah, song number 72 is so metal. It's
I want to hear that one. I'm going to listen to that one.
Yeah, apart from Megadeth.
Yeah.
I mean, I love my folk artists, you know, Noah Kahan and Hozier, Zach Bryan, Joni Mitchell's another huge one. I know we mentioned her earlier. This list could be incredibly long. But, you know, like Ed Sheeran, I love, you know, Jake, his, like, This Is What Blank Feels Like project. That one was really cool. Peter McPoland, I've been, like, obsessed with his music lately. And, you know, Fleetwood Mac, of course. How can you not love them? But the list is endless. I try to be very open with who I listen to because I think I think it can be very limiting to be like, this is the music I like. This is my genre. I won't go into that genre. You know, I don't believe in that. And so I try whenever someone's like, check out this artist, and they'll be like, Megadeth. I'll be like, heck yeah, let's do it. And, you know,
well, that's what makes a good artist, though. We can't be narrow-minded and just
versatility.
One genre. Yeah, you can learn from. If you hate country, I guarantee you can learn something that'll affect you vocally and lyrically from a country artist.
So, what are some of the then types of music you really haven't explored then in writing?
In writing? Oh gosh.
Like, have you done rap, like a type of rap style, or like more of a quick type thing?
The closest I've gotten to rap would be like the Ed Sheeran kind of vibe of like you're like just talk singing. I wouldn't call it rap. That's not a genre that I can see myself doing because I think I would not look cool doing it. I would look so nerdy and lame.
But what about writing the music for someone else to sing? Would you ever consider doing something like that where you feel it in your head, but for you to portray it with your own words would be harder but writing it wouldn't be as difficult?
I think I'd have to like study the genre a lot more than I currently have. I mean, I've listened to several tracks and artists and I can appreciate it, but it's not something that I would listen to if I'm sitting alone in my room. But I'm always open to like challenging myself. Like one of my dreams is to write like a really good country song. Just
you
because
just have to you just have to get rid of everything and just write about it.
true, yeah.
Lost your dog, your train, truck, mama, beer. You're good to go.
Exactly. There we go.
That's a terrible, terrible like stereotype of country music because there's some good country music that I'll still listen to. Like I love the Chicks. I love like a good Reba song and Dolly Parton.
Yep. I like Willie.
See, I was never a Willie fan.
Oh, I did. It's something about that nasal voice. That's why I like Miley. Though, everyone, I remember way back when, a lot of years ago, a lot of young artists would come to me wanting to do like The Climb or something early that Miley did. And, she was so much more nasal back then. But it's just her natural tone. And people, I have so many, especially rock friends, like, she can't sing. She can't sing. Really?
Whatever.
I've heard her sing Metallica. I've heard her sing Blondie. Just smoke it. I think, Dani, you and I were talking about this yesterday. Miley has no fear. That's what I relate to Dani. We may be in a lesson. She'd be like, "Oh, I hate it," but you have no fear. If you work through it, she'll try it. She'll experiment, and I think you could have her do anything at any time on the spot.
That's awesome.
Yep. So, yes.
Which I've seen Miley in concert.
Really?
Front row, yes, because I only do front row.
Yeah.
I took my oldest daughter, Sky, 1 year after it was her Christmas present was VIP passes to see Miley. When she did
you get to meet her?
The Bangers tour. No, we didn't get to see her, but we got all the the passes and all the gear, tag and early admission or early entrance stuff like that kind of thing. So yeah, because I'm super short. I've never seen 5 foot, so I have to be up front for concerts.
How tall are you? I don't really picture you as that short.
Jamie, I'm 4'11".
No, you're not.
You've only seen me in heels because I wear an extra 4 inches.
Okay. Well, listen, when we come down to get tattoos, me and my wife, we'll go to the beach, and you got to take off your high heels on the sand, and then I'll know the truth.
Yes.
I would not guess you were 4'11".
Yes. Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, my husband didn't know that till our honeymoon. I'm kidding.
He's 6'11". So
he's 6'2". So yeah, like if he stands up straight and tall.
That's awesome. It's like my mom and my dad. My mom's like 5'0". My dad's like 6'2". All their wedding photos looks like a picture of my dad, and my mom just like happens to be in it.
I'm holding on to this.
She's photobombing it.
Yeah. Yes.
So what if for new songwriters, what are some tips you would give them?
Just write. I mean,
always write.
Just always keep writing, even if you have writer's block or boredom. If
Did you see her face?
Please keep it a student.
I'm just gonna blame it on the Canadian thing for being kind and nice to everyone.
No, honestly, just keep writing. If you're struggling to write songs, listen to your favorite artists and study how they write songs, and just keep doing it. And every time you get an idea, write it down. Voice memos. I have thousands of voice memos that are horrible on my phone, and that's what's always do that. Always be like documenting everything, and eventually you'll get some.
So what do you do? Who are you outside of writing then? Like, do you have this alter ego aside from being a songwriter, musician? What is that?
Honestly, not really. I mean, I find that like who I am as a person is so closely intertwined with music, and I have such like a deep relationship with music that it's kind of just who I am, and it's not like something I can just turn off or stop doing. That being said, like any good Canadian, I love a good hockey game. But yeah, I don't really have hobbies.
I know rock stars that if you ask this question, they'll be like, "Oh, well, I like to whittle or do this or do that." When you asked her that, I already knew the answer. Knowing her for a year now and just like getting to know my students, I think this is just who you are. a lot of us, it's like, yeah, I'm a full-time student becoming a math teacher and I sing, or I gig every weekend, but I do construction. You're like, no, I live and breathe and do this, and it's all I want to do, and I wish there were more hours in the day so I could sing more. So
Awesome.
yeah, that's why I know that you will have a excellent career.
Thank you.
So do you have any dates for us? Because today, when we're airing this one, when it comes out, it'll be right before Christmas. We're just going to be a few days before Christmas when people are listening to this one. So is there something that they can listen to on Christmas? Do you have any Christmas music that you have put out there? Any songs that are coming that they can maybe get on iTunes or something?
I wish I had a Christmas album. That is one of my
There you go.
dreams, is to
Add it
write and record a Christmas album. I'm just going to add it to my list.
for next year. Next year, just have a Christmas album we can listen to from Thanksgiving night all the way through December.
Play. I'll work on it. I'll get in the studio right now.
You can go watch her irritate her dad in that video I watched last night. I'll be singing the Mariah Carey song when he's trying to make dough, trying to make bread.
Is that on Instagram?
It is. I'm very proud of that video.
Watch that one.
It is like a very accurate depiction of living with me. I live with my parents, and that is typical Sunday.
Well,
I'm just trying to live their life.
I was going to ask you, since you're a full-time artist, musician, do you live with your parents in the basement?
Oh, I'm not even in the basement. We're on the same floor.
Yeah.
No, I'm very blessed. My parents are incredibly supportive, and I couldn't do any of this without them. And I love them very much. They're my biggest fans.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
And I know that you asked if she had anything out, but the deal too, she's working with Jason Davis Management, a very prominent manager. I mean, Jason's worked with like some of the biggest rappers in the industry from way back when. And so I know that's the goal. So I know that you're holding back and she's not releasing a ton of singles right now because of we really can't get into it, but the situation with everything she's doing. However, you can go to her Instagram and scroll down like 400 posts and start song number 1 and go through 100.
So, I mean, but I'm like, this is me being completely oblivious to some of the things that I'm on your Instagram. I follow your Instagram, but do you have anything released yet at all that people could purchase single wise at all? Or is that coming soon?
I have one song that I wrote when I was 16, recorded it when I was 17. I'm a completely different person, completely different artist now. But if you want a tidbit, a snapshot of who I was in my graduating year of high school, you can check that out. It's called Mr. Movie Star. But I pinky promise that I have new music coming, and you will find out about that in due time.
Yeah, the thing with that too, it's I love and I hate this industry because it's hurry up and wait. I know what you're referring to. So yes, singles are done, but it's that wait process at this point. It's like
it's kind of like the editing with books, Jamie. Because again, I'm on the outside asking these questions because you two are familiar with the recording industry and all that. I'm not. So is it kind of the same idea that you have your songs have to go through this editing process? And it's almost like us editor and then interior book publication stuff and then the cover. There's all these things that have to happen for it. So I'm assuming that's the same on your end with musics and singles.
Yeah, mixing and mastering, but it's still beyond that. She may I have other students who are already signed. I've had 4 students signed to major labels this year in the last 12 months. And none of the records are out. Couple singles are out. Some I know one girl who's had a single done for months and months and months and months, and it's like it's just hurry up and wait because it's all with the record industry. It's all about timing, placement, marketing, branding, all of that. Because that is, I hate to say it, Dani's a product. Yeah, she is a brand. She is a product. So that everything's going to be placement. Her look. Her makeup, her hair, her clothes, the cover art for every single, making sure that they're ready, that she have 3 or 4 singles ready to go even before she's signed, so that when the record industry does get a hold of her, they're like, okay, we already got a built-in brand and product, now we know how to sell this. She has a following, bam. So yes,
I did see that where, and I seen where I can't remember the art, whether it was Drake or someone else. It might have even been a female artist, and they said only Taylor Swift would make me change when I release something. because where Taylor was releasing certain things, they're like, I'm going to push mine back because I know as soon as she releases that, mine's going to get buried.
Yep.
So it's kind of, I get the whole timing thing, because with movies, like when a movie comes out, if you release it when like Barbie came out, why? Because your movie's going to bomb. No one's going to know it's there because Barbie was so big. Sometimes great movies get lost because they didn't launch it at the right time. So I can see that being the same thing with you in music, is making sure that your music is put out to where nothing else is coming out, like in the proper schedule.
Absolutely.
She took the word right out of my mouth.
It's that intuition. I'm tapping into the north. I'm tapping into the north down here at the south. Yeah. So Dani, sometime you're gonna have to come to the States and come to the beach and visit.
I know.
I live right on the Gulf Coast, and it's beautiful.
Amazing.
Clear waters. Yeah, it's clear waters. Yeah. Yes.
I will be mad if she makes it there before me.
Yeah.
It's a race.
Yeah. Yes. Yes. Okay, so let me think here. What is something else we want to know about Dani? Other than, I mean, I've listened to your stuff. I think your stuff's great.
I know.
Dani just had something come into his mind. What?
Yeah. We think that you should write a book on how to write 100 songs in a year.
You know, she could do a journal entry almost, like the whole process. It doesn't have to be like a book, like I'm telling a story with fictional characters. She can literally do a journal, like this is like when I wrote this song, make that chapter title the name of the song and what happened when you were writing that song.
Absolutely. That would be crazy.
Sponsored by this podcast.
And if you have 2 pages and it's laid out, you're going to have a 200-page book.
Mm-hmm.
That's just for book 1.
Yes. So while you're waiting for all these things released, let's start that.
I think that would be excellent.
Yes.
Oh my gosh.
Now I'm going to think of a cool. I'm going to help you think of a cool name for it.
Always Songwriter.
Oh my gosh.
That's corny. No.
I know, but it's the first thing that came to mind.
Yeah. It has to be yeah.
All right, Dani, any last words of wisdom?
Wisdom. Oh.
Yeah.
You put her on the spot for wisdom?
Yeah, for songwriter wisdom.
Oh, I don't consider myself to be a wise person.
Again,
honestly,
she's too humble.
I'd say one thing that really helps me write so much is not writing from personal experience and not overthinking lyrics and songs, because it's honestly, as like a songwriter and as an artist, it's so easy to get all up in your head and think like this is the most important song ever, but honestly, it's not that deep. It's really not that deep. Write it down, the first thing that comes to mind, and you can always go back and edit it, but just like write. It doesn't have to be about your personal life, because you can live so many more lives than just your own perspective and narrative. And yeah, don't overthink it is what I do. And that's worked for me.
So with that, real quickly, just one more question. So you had mentioned you take notes and sometimes you'll like just have a thought process. So if someone gave you like a theme or an idea, like, hey, I need a song that kind of fits like this idea concept. Are you good with stuff like that?
I love it. I wrote a song for a short film called for a YouTube series called Young Actors Project, and I wrote a song for one of their short films, and that's exactly what it was. He was like, "This is the story. This is what's happening," and I had a blast and a half writing that one. And a couple years ago, my best friend was like, "I just broke up with my boyfriend, but like it was mutual. Can you write a song about that?" And I was like, "Okay." And there's a bit of kind of like a jukebox, but like songwriting edition, and I love it. I love it.
Okay. So that's giving me ideas, because I mean, you can have songs for book trailers down the road. When an author's like, "Hey, this is my book. This is what it's about. I need a trailer song to kind of like get that mood, that vibe going with it."
Heck
there
yeah.
you go.
If anyone
there
wants
you
anything
go.
like that,
yes.
Yeah, I love that stuff.
Yes. All right. I'm so excited that you got to join us today, all the way from Canada on the Pacific coastline. This is great.
Thank you so much for having me. This has been so much fun.
All right. So for all our listeners, you can go to see Miss Dani Black on her Instagram. And you said your Instagram is at dannyblack.music?
Yeah, Instagram and TikTok are both dannyblack.music.
Instagram. Okay. Do you have a Facebook?
Theoretically.
Okay.
I'm pretty sure it's Dani Black Music.
It is.
All right, okay.
Yeah.
All right. So we'll try to tag a lot of that. And do you have a website where people can just like a landing page that people could go to?
Yeah, my website's dannyblack.com. Real nice and simple.
And
DANI.
DANI, yes.
Yes. And I will put that in the show notes for everybody. So you can just click the link, go directly to her landing page and see where, you can find information about what's happening in her world. But for the rest of our listeners, until next time, we want you to always write, whether you're writing your books, whether you're writing a song, whatever you want to do, just always write. And you can reach out to us on our socials at Always Write Podcast. We are on Facebook. We are on Instagram. We're on Threads. We're on, Twitter, now known as X.
X.
Yes, I know. I say X, but if you're like, what's X? It's formerly known as Twitter. It's like Prince.
It's Twitter.
It's like Prince, the formerly artist or known as the Prince. It's a symbol. Yeah, we're on TikTok. So we're pretty much everywhere, but it's Always Write Podcast. You can also email us, ask us questions, comments, or you want to know more about Dani, just email us at alwayswritepodcast@gmail.com, and we'll get back to you as soon as we possibly can, because we are, so busy doing our thing. But I am your host, Carissa DeLay, thanking Dani for coming, and this is my co-host. You can say it this time.
Okay. Jamie Vendera.
All right. Until next time, thank you for listening. Goodbye.